Anyways, guys, it'll be interesting to see how that shakes out. So let me move right along here to the quarterback position. And then after that, we'll talk about the transfer portal. And I'm going to review an article and let you guys know which positions I think are the most important for Iowa to target in the transfer portal. So the quarterback position. There's already been speculation that Iowa is going after, let's see here, let me see if I can get it pulled up, that they are going after former USC quarterback. I saw this yesterday, people joking about Iowa going after him, Miller Moss. I would give Iowa like a 10 to 15% chance of landing him. Yes, Iowa is a good destination spot in that it's the Big Ten. Iowa does have a proven track record of getting guys into the NFL. And there is a definite need at the quarterback position. And there is definitely a spot to compete for the starting position. The drawback is Iowa's reputation on the offensive side. Now, while it's improved with Tim Lester and this past season, it still is not the best, especially when it comes to passing the football. And I think I'm going to do a video about this in the future just to pinpoint it. But I believe that the question still remains how much Kirk Ferentz is willing to relinquish to Tim Lester as offensive coordinator, and how much of Iowa's improved success this year was just basically the talent that he had on the roster, being Caleb Johnson, the offensive line being super veteran and super experienced. Time will tell. We won't know until next season rolls around. Next season will be the definitive point in time to say, okay, this is Tim Lester's success and this is not. But there still is a major concern, at least for me, whether or not Kirk Ferentz will relinquish control of the offense enough for Iowa to be successful. I think there were signs of it this year, but we still cannot say with 100% certainty that that is the case, because there were also times where Iowa played extremely conservatively, and we saw, like against Nebraska, and we saw them kind of go back to their old ways of doing things. So time will tell with that. But the quarterback position. So Iowa going into next year, and I've already alluded to this in a previous video, or in a few previous videos, especially the reflection video on this past season, whether this season was a success or a failure for Iowa. Iowa will have Brendan Sullivan. They will have Jackson Stratton, who was a preferred walk-on. We'll see if he has earned himself a scholarship. I think he might have, honestly. I think he might have earned himself a scholarship. Marco Lainez, and then true freshman Jimmy Sullivan, scholarship quarterback, and preferred walk-on Ryan Fitzgerald, who is Pat Fitzgerald's son. And there's a good chance that had Iowa not landed Jimmy Sullivan, that they would have offered him a scholarship. And, you know, obviously because of how well off Ryan Fitzgerald family is, they were willing to take the risk and pay for his schooling and give him a chance to compete under a good coaching, well-coached team and a good football program in Iowa. So the two true freshmen are out. Okay, they are not in year one. They're not good enough to be starters. They're not. Down the line, they might be able to, and I actually like both of them as prospects. But now, no, they're not ready now. Marco Lainez, I think, quite possibly has the highest upside of the three, but it's very hard to know where he is at because of his injury this year. It's very hard to know. I wish that he was available this entire season, as he likely would have gotten at least a few snaps. Regardless of his upside, I think going into the offseason, he will be third on the depth chart. A very close third. Now, mind you, I want to preface all of this by saying that this will be a complete and utter open competition. This will probably be the biggest open competition for the quarterback position that we have seen since maybe Spencer Petras when he first came to the starting position, and even after that when he won the starting position and Alex Padilla got some snaps. Of course, they did really, at least publicly, they said that they were giving a good hard look at all the available quarterbacks, and it was an open competition. Maybe the CJ Beathard and Jake Rudock years. So, but this will, in my opinion, this will be the most open the position has been. I also want to say that I do think that Tim Lester, and I've been on record saying this already several times, that Tim Lester has already improved the quarterback room in his first year. He was very active and very aggressive in landing Brennan Sullivan. Think about this, guys. Think about where Iowa's position group would be had Tim Lester not went and gotten Jackson Stratton or Brendan Sullivan. There's a decent chance that Deacon Hill would still be here. Iowa, of course, lost Carson May. They ended up losing oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm blanking on his name. Joey Labus, who I actually really did like his upside, and let's see what he finished this season. Let's see what his stats were to finish this season. But I do think that he has already improved. His stats this year were he threw for 1,114 yards, 7 touchdowns, 7 INTs with a 34 QBR for Central Michigan. So not good. I mean, he didn't have a good season by any means. But sorry, guys, an ad on the thing played. So I think he has improved the room. I think he's made it more competitive, and I think at the very least, I like that he was active in trying to get the room to be more competitive. I think Jackson Stratton will be number 2, just by way of him being the preferred walk-on, and he's going to be the second. And this is all not taking into account that Iowa lands a transfer portal quarterback. Okay, this is all just with the quarterbacks that they have. And by the way, James Razor, who was brought in as a quarterback, was moved to the wide receiver position, which overall I think was a good move. But I would have personally liked to see what he had at the quarterback position. But Iowa ultimately decided, no, we want his full development to be at wide receiver, which I'm okay with that as well. The number one quarterback is going to be Brendan Sullivan going into next year. It's his job to lose. But I do think that it is absolutely an open competition. I don't think that the quarterbacks are separated by that much. I think Jackson Stratton, I've said multiple times, I like his physical makeup. He's 6'5". He can move well for his size. And I think he probably has the biggest arm of those three. So we'll have to see. But that is probably how I would order them going into next year, which begs the question: how important is the transfer portal for Iowa at the quarterback position? Answer: very important. Very, very important. It's extremely important, guys. Iowa needs to go and get a guy that can legitimately compete for QB1 going into next season. Plain and simple. Iowa needs to get a better at the starting quarterback position. There's no ifs, there's no ands, there's no buts about this. All right, let's move on. So this is from Hawkeyes Wire from USA Today. This is a transfer portal look ahead. So quarterback position needs. It says chance at the starting job. So they need to get a quarterback who has a chance at winning this starting position. And I completely agree with that. Before I do that, let's talk about Marco Lainez and I did this last year. I might do it again where I do a video giving my confidence meter for guys transferring and staying. Okay. I think personally, Marco Lainez would be stupid for transferring. Namely because only going into his redshirt sophomore season is there a possibility for him to earn the starting job. And, when he first came to Iowa, it was looking like it wouldn't be until his junior season. Okay? So, the position is open. I mean, he has a legitimate chance at winning that position. There is no guaranteed starter at this point. And so you have to ask yourself, or he needs to ask himself, where could he go that is as solid of a program as Iowa that would provide him with the opportunity going into next year to win the starting job as much as Iowa, or as much as Iowa does? And the answer is there's few and far between. I'm just looking real quick. He's a redshirt freshman. That's what I thought. So he'll be going into his redshirt sophomore year next year. But with that said, nothing would surprise me. I would give him like a 30 to 40% chance of transferring. So the overwhelming is that he stays. If he transfers, it will be because he's tired of being at Iowa. He's tired of playing in the system, and he doesn't believe in Tim Lester. Or that he feels that he is not being given a legitimate look at the starting quarterback position and does not have a pathway to start. In other words, he is not viewed in a positive light for the starting quarterback position. Everything we've heard, that's not the case. So I don't think that would be the reason. We haven't heard anything negative about Marco Lainez like we've heard for other young quarterbacks. Who is the quarterback that Kirk Ferentz said he wasn't ready to play publicly, and that it would basically be a ish show? I think it was Deuce Hogan from the state of Texas, where it was said publicly, and he felt so embarrassed, and he ended up transferring. So the main reason that he would transfer would be because he is tired of being in the system. And I think whether Marco transfers or not is going to say a decent amount about Tim Lester and the confidence that, at least early on in his time at Iowa, he has been able to instill in the talent that he has on or with the players on the roster. So we'll see how that goes. The upcoming bowl will be very interesting to see who gets the starting nod for that game. I think it'll likely be Brendan Sullivan or Jackson Stratton, but we'll see. We'll see. I don't know that I don't know the extent of Brendan Sullivan's injury, and I would need to look into it. I don't think he was available for the game against Nebraska. So, all right, moving this along. So anyways, actually, let's read this. Iowa football quarterback will be sidelined for the team's Week 13 at Maryland. Announced during Tuesday. He exited the game in the third quarter after taking several hits, ruled out with a sprained ankle. So he probably won't return to the field and is unlikely to return for the final game of the regular season, but is hopeful that Sullivan can return in Iowa's bowl game. So there you guys go. All right, let's go back to reading this article from Hawkeye's Wire. By the way, guys, I kind of like these kind of more relaxed with the Rode mic. Because when I do the other mic, I make it much more professional and much more to the much more like segmenty. Whereas this one is kind of just short form. Just pull it up. Let's talk. Let's chat about Iowa football. The Cade McNamara transfer portal is over after a largely disappointing 2 years. That shouldn't stop Iowa from seeking a quarterback, though. The starting job is going to be open heading into next year, and competition or top grading could prove vital. I don't know what top grading means. Brendan Sullivan, Jackson Stratton, and Marco Lainez will remain on the roster unless we see one of them transfer and fight for the starting job elsewhere. Tim Lester could look to add another piece to this room and bring in a guy he likes. The group has already been in the news as Iowa is reportedly looking at former USC quarterback Miller Moss. So there you guys go. It would be a major steal if they can land Miller Moss. Like I said, I'd give it like a 10 to 20% chance that they can land him. Running back needs more important than it seems on paper. This one I disagree with. I think the room is very healthy. I like Kamari Moulton taking over as the lead back next year. Running backs can take massive leaps forward, like we saw with Caleb Johnson. I think Kamari Moulton has all the physical tools and the mentality and the hard work, the work ethic to be a legitimate lead back. I mean, I think he's already one of the better running backs in the Big Ten. Definitely one of the better backup running backs, but Iowa's losing a lot of pieces on the offensive line. They also have Josiah Patterson. They have Brevin Dole. They have Xavier Williams. And then, of course, Iowa will be bringing in Nathan McNeil who's kind of a late bloomer out of Wiregrass, Florida, and I actually really like him as a prospect. I think he was a great late find for Liddell Betts. So I think the room is fine. Could Iowa maybe add like one more depth piece, perhaps? But I think they could just as easily hold on to that scholarship to land multiple running backs in the 2026 recruiting class than to utilize it in the transfer portal. So if I were Iowa, I don't think it's a priority, but they can land maybe a young up-and-coming prospect from a smaller school, or they can land a veteran guy that wants to come to Iowa to win and will provide depth and perhaps a chance to play at the Big Ten level. Okay. That said, Iowa does have Kamari Moulton and Josiah Patterson waiting in the wings for their chance. While they do have those two, and by the way, they also have Terrell Washington Jr. as like a secondary piece at the running back position, although he's kind of veering more towards the wide receiver position. But in all reality, I don't think Terrell Washington Jr. is purely a running back or purely a wide receiver. I think he is in the vein of a Connor McCaffrey, not that he's that talented, but his skill set. Connor McCaffrey, Reggie Bush, where he can be utilized all over the field. While they do have those two, neither has been the bell cow at any point in their career. Yeah, because they're young. With the success this year, Iowa is an attractive landing spot for a running back and could offer the chance to become a lead back. Running back is more important than it may initially seem at first glance. I don't know that I agree with that. I think that there's other much bigger needs than the running back position. Wide receiver needs, immediate starter required. This is arguably one of the biggest needs that the Hawkeyes have in the transfer portal. Jacob Gill came via the portal and was Iowa's best wideout this year. They need to add another piece alongside him. The depth behind Gill simply has yet to have someone step up and prove they can be the guy. Iowa needs to add an immediate starting wide receiver, and Tim Lester's new offense paired with Gill's success provides a selling point. Yes and no. I mean, Iowa has a lot of young talent, and if they can find a guy that's starter talent level, great. But I don't think they are going to be able to. I don't think Iowa is ever going to be very successful at landing proven high caliber wide receivers, because there's other schools they can go to. But they can possibly find a younger wide receiver with multiple years of eligibility that, has played at the college level, maybe from a smaller school, and can provide Iowa some nice depth. Maybe he's very fast or whatever the case may be. I think that's what Iowa should be looking for. I think it'll always be hard, at least initially with Tim Lester, for Iowa to land a proven wide receiver. Because the fact is, there's just other schools to go to, and a proven wide receiver is a premium. If they are a proven wide receiver, there's going to be other schools that are after them. So, but I do mostly agree with that. Tight end. Need a depth piece at most. This group is looking good for 2025. This year, Addison Ostrenga, Johnny Pascuzzi, and Zach Ortworth were called on to carry the load and did so without skipping a beat. So I agree. I think Iowa is more than talented at the tight end position and has guys in the waiting wings that are developing. If they can find an athletic young guy that they can develop and get in the weight room out of the transfer portal, fine. But they don't need to make a big splash. They already have a lot of talented guys on the roster. It's going to be a position of strength going into next year, and I fully expect Zach Ortworth and Addison Ostrenga to take major steps forward. Offensive line. Immediate starter required. This group is depleted by eligibility running out. Connor Colby, Nick DeYoung, Tyler Ellsbury, Logan Jones, and Mason Richmond will all be departing. So the guys that I've been confused on this as far as the extra COVID year goes. I thought that some of these guys still had a COVID year left. I think Mason Richmond could really, really benefit from one more year. But Iowa will have, let's see, along the starting offensive line, trying to remember, there's two guys that Iowa will have along the offensive line. Bo Stevens is one. he'll be able to come back. And then there is Jennings Dunker. So Iowa will have 2 pieces coming back. But yes, I agree. Iowa could definitely utilize landing a pretty much almost a sure bet starting offensive lineman. So, and also a depth piece that is young and a guy that Iowa can develop. All right, let's move forward. Offensive line, defensive line, contributors welcome. And it looks like Iowa is going after a D2 stud. There's a lot of competition for him. And I agree. I mean, Iowa could definitely land a guy that can be an immediate impact guy, but Iowa always reloads across the defensive line. Kelvin Bell has recruited the position very well. They'll, at the very least, they'll have Max Llewellyn and Aaron Graves, who are very talented. So I think they'll be okay. They either need to land a younger up-and-comer that has high upside, or maybe a veteran that doesn't have the highest upside but can give you much needed depth and contribution. Next, linebacker, immediate starter required. I don't know that I agree with this. I don't agree with this because this is probably the one I disagree with the most. Iowa has a lot of talent at the linebacker position. Seth Wallace has recruited the position very well. It's probably the second or third best recruited position over the last couple of years. There's talks that Ben Keeter is coming back. And even outside of him, there's a lot of guys on the roster that have been being developed and worked on. Iowa always finds a way to reload at that position. And usually it's not through the transfer portal. You know, Nick Jackson was a huge get, and I knew that at the time. I knew that he was going to be successful coming to Iowa. But there are other positions that are more important. Also, Iowa is going to have veterans, maybe not in their snaps at linebacker, but still veterans in their time at Iowa in Carson Sherrar and Jaden Harrell. So I think they are fine at the linebacker position, and honestly, I'm kind of looking forward to see what those two guys have for next year. And there might be other guys that emerge at those positions, honestly. So, if they can find a depth piece, fine, but I don't think that they have an immediate starter needed. Now, if you can get it, then get it. You know, the caveat that I would say to all of this is the transfer portal is talent acquisition. So even if you don't need it, but you can get it, you may as well, because the name of the game is talent acquisition at this point. And always remember that. If everything I've said today, that is the biggest thing to remember, is talent acquisition, talent acquisition. Defensive back, immediate starter required. Yes and no. I don't think it's an immediate starter required. I think it's a depth piece that's required. Iowa has a lot of guys that have experience over multiple years. Yes, the second cornerback spot did have ups and downs this past year, but I think TJ Hall, John Nestor, and some of the other guys will be able to put it together for next year. They have Deshaun Lee. They have guys with experience, and they've recruited that position. If they can find a guy if they can find a guy, great. But I don't think it's the most important position. Maybe at safety. But let's see, who's the other guy? Jalen Watson, true freshman. That's the other guy that's in the running. So we'll see. Again, if they can find a guy and acquire some talent, why not? But I think, again, there's some other positions that are more important, and I like the guys that Iowa has. And then it says specialist, depth piece at most. If Iowa can go and find a long snapper or a return man like a Caden Wetchin, So, to me, the two positions that Iowa needs to target and spend most of their resources on is quarterback and wide receiver. Every other position, I think Iowa is in a good place, and if it's there, they should get it. They should acquire the talent. But if it's not, no big deal. They can go for more depth pieces, maybe high upside pieces that they can get into the program, get into the weight room, develop, and really go about it that way. All right, guys, thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to hit that subscribe button, like, comment. Let me know what you guys think. Which positions are the most important positions for Iowa to target in the transfer portal? Where'd you agree? Where'd you disagree with me? I'll have some more content for you guys here moving forward. We'll talk about the bowl game. I think I'm going to do a video talking about Kirk Ferentz and whether Iowa can ever reach the height, especially with the new hire of Tim Lester. Because I do want to talk about that. I've been watching like Wisconsin and Nebraska channels, and it's interesting to see their perspective when talking about the University of Iowa. So anyways, guys, be sure to hit that subscribe button. Let's get this channel to 2,000 subscribers. We hit the 1,300 mark, and I thank all of you guys for supporting the channel. And last but not least, DBAP, don't be a pussy, Willow. In fact, your feelings, because your feelings just don't matter. I love you, Hawk fans. See you guys next time. Go Hawks. Bye-bye.